David, we're here in Columbus, Ohio. I met you at the library, but you live in a tent city, tent community I just visited. Tell me about it.
I've been in that area for approximately a year and a half now. We were moved from an area a couple hundred feet up the trail. Railroad people were doing some work and cleared that area out and made us move. So I've been in this area for about a year and a half now. I've been homeless for about, it'll be almost 3 years in 2 months now. So that is due, I was released from prison on a attempted failure to register charge, which I was guilty of. And due to my mother's illness, she was in her late 70s, in a wheelchair, diabetes and stuff. I was taking care of her a lot, so I was not able to take on a full-time job. I would take care of her during the third shift hours and then get down to my tent during the daytime. I'm a registered sex offender in the Franklin County here, Ohio. And part of the requirement is that if you're homeless, you have to check in with the Sheriff's Department Monday through Friday. And twice a week we have to do a records check to make sure there's not any warrants for us. Makes it very inconvenient to
So you have to check in every day?
I have to check in Monday through Friday.
Monday through Friday?
Yes.
Weekdays?
Yes. That's a very inconvenient thing,
right.
Trying to find work, trying to keep work. I've been able to get some work through Spout Labor. I was working for one of the car auction companies here in Columbus, and I was there for a couple of weeks. I'd worked for them for about 3.5 years previously, and when I went back to work for them, the new human resources person had told me that I had falsified my application. They were terminating my employment. And I couldn't understand that because when I'd gone through every program I'd gone through, from sex offender program, programs of probation department, everywhere else, they all suggest we do the same thing, being sex offenders. That when it comes to the question of have you ever been yes, well, we'll explain in an interview. Well, the human resources person said that there was falsification of application because the fine print on the bottom of the application said every line must be filled out in its entirety. So I had lost that job. Right now I'm working on getting my CDL license. I have my learner's permit. I have a friend that is once I can get my full CDL license, has a position open for me which will change things dramatically for me. I don't know how that's going to be. It's not easy to get that CDL license.
Right. But here was, you did time, you paid your price to what society?
Yes. The biggest problem is that with housing of, I'm a tier 3 registered sex offender, the worst of the worst. So community notifications have to go out. The only problem I have with that is that my crime was committed years before that registration ever came into effect. Now, the Ohio Supreme Court has reversed 2 decisions that were made retroactive regarding sex offenders, and I'm hoping someday to be able to launch a campaign to be able to turn this around, because my crime was committed in 1987. I was convicted in early 88, in April of 88, but these registration laws never came into effect until the early mid-90s. So I'm wondering why we have to register, and it affects our life. I spent 13 and a half years inside for my crimes. I don't have any problem with that. The time fit the crime. I take full responsibility and accountability for my actions. I regret what I've done. People, when you're in prison and you're getting ready to be released, one of the big questions that's always asked is, how do you feel about a second chance? I said I don't want a second chance, because a second chance to me represents the potential to fail again.
Right.
If I fail again, that means there's another victim.
Right.
None of us want that. They said, well, what do you want? I said, what I want is the opportunity to live the potential I've always had but was afraid to live. You say that again. All I want is the opportunity to live the potential that I've always had but was afraid to live.
Right.
I'm getting that start. I still need some help. I'm homeless. I've been homeless for almost 3 years now.
Right.
And I have a real compassion for the homeless people.
Right.
I have a little bit better. I have some friends, some family where I go to get a shower, to get a hot meal.
And
from
nobody
time
would
to
know
time.
you're homeless.
Nobody would. I've had a lot of people,
Yeah.
homeless people, come up to me and say, hey, I'm homeless, can you help me out?
Yeah.
When I tell them I'm homeless, they're like, what?
Yeah.
They don't believe it.
Well, as we were talking, your first priority is to not offend again.
Right, right.
That's your,
You know,
and being out on the streets,
well,
I mean, that doesn't help. I mean, you
no,
know, that.
here's the thing about it. 3 years ago, I was on probation for the attempted failure to register. I was given 3 years. I did everything legal. My son had a friend up in Michigan. I contacted Franklin County Sheriff's Department, notified them that I was getting ready to move the address. They told me I had 10 days to effect the move or there would be a warrant for my arrest. I went up to Michigan. I ran into all kinds of roadblocks. 10 days went by. I figure I got the warrant for my arrest, come get me.
Right.
6 months later, Michigan calls down,
Right.
says, hey, is David down there? And they said, no. I got word that the county had a warrant for my arrest. I called them, turned myself in. I did the right thing.
Right.
On probation, again, I was put through programming. And in that programming, I learned that sex offenders, particularly tier 3s, their risk offender rate, recidivism rate, goes way up
When they're out on the
when
streets.
they're homeless and jobless.
Right.
Okay? Now, I was in a program. I didn't complete the program. They continued my probation for another year. About halfway through that, I was violated 2 reasons: being jobless, being homeless. Not because I was hanging
Right.
around schools or parks or doing
Right.
anything improper. For being jobless and homeless, I was violated.
Yeah.
Like I said, according to their statistics, recidivism rate for my crime goes up dramatically
Right.
if you don't have a job or home.
Right.
Why would somebody not make that a priority, particularly for
Unbelievable.
tier 3 offenders like myself, to
No, it's-
get at least housing so that we can reduce that potential for recidivism?
right.
Every time
It's a huge issue. It's a huge issue.
I was on probation, 6 months out on the street, never offended, never did anything. In fact, in their program for job training, I raised the bar beyond anybody that's ever been in that program for the 9 years that it was in existence. I hit the highest score in it, being jobless and homeless.
Yeah.
I say that to say this: if people choose not to offend, nothing out there, being jobless, being homeless, isn't going to matter. You have to choose within yourself that
Right.
you don't want another victim. You don't want another person to go through that. You have to have a real sense of victim empathy.
Right.
And there are people out there that, like when I was in programming, they said every time you hear of another arrest of another sex offender or person involved in child pornography, it's hard on those of us that are trying to do the right thing.
Right.
Society, there are people out there that don't want any more victims, that have had victims.
Right.
I'm one of them people. My number one priority is no more victims.
Right.
And I'm just saying, let's help us.
Yeah.
You know, if society is concerned about recidivism rate for those of us that have to be out on the street, then get us off the street.
Right.
I walk downtown here in Columbus and I see dozens of buildings that can be utilized
Yeah. No. Unbelievable.
to help us if there were a little bit of funds, a little
Yeah.
bit of organization.
Yeah. No, I thank you for having the courage to be honest about this subject. This is a serious subject, obviously, and the housing and homelessness issue to this and the recidivism rate needs to be addressed. So thank you for having the courage. But I like to close with asking people 3 wishes. What if you had 3 wishes? What would they be?
It would be to have a good enough and steady income to where I wouldn't need outside resources to help me. I would like to I'd like to be more active, proactive in helping other homeless people. Having been homeless for more than 4 years now,
Right.
has really touched my heart. And I see some that just don't care, some that have given up, but some that want help.
Right.
So that would be probably wish 2. Wish 3 would be to take a nice vacation because I need one.
Yeah. Well,
But seriously, I want to say thank you for the opportunity to speak on this subject.
well, thank you very much.